Now, the author is going to go on to mention the issues in which are the issue of who should be given preference or who should be given preference when leading the prayer. So, for example, when there is a group of people and the time for the prayer comes up, who is given preference in terms of being the imam? And this issue is mustahab, meaning that it's recommended. And so he says, وَيُسْتَحَبُّ تَقْدِيمُ السُّلْطَانِ فِي الْإِمَامَةِ. Under all, the first one he mentions is taqdimu sultan, meaning the leader, or yani the leader of that region or the leader of the country. If there is ever a gathering in which he is present, then he is given preference over all others. Thumma rabbul manzil, meaning the person, yani the owner of the house. So, for example, if we all were to go over to the house of a specific person and the time for prayer came, then it is mustahab for the leader of the house, the one who owns the house, to lead the prayer, even if there are other people there. And there is an exception to the rule, which we'll mention later, but in a household environment, it is the host or the one who runs the house or the one who owns the house that he should be the one to lead the prayer. ثُمَّ الْمُسْتَأْجِرُ يُقَدِّمُ عَلَى الْمَالِكِ. Then he mentions another issue. For example, if there's ever a case where a person is renting a house and their landlord comes over. So, for example, your landlord is your next door neighbor, and you have a gathering, and you invite over the landlord. Still, in this case, the one who is given preference in terms of leading the prayer is one who's renting the house, because during his renting, he is as if he's the owner of the house. Then he says, ثم الزائد في الفقه ثم زائد في الحديث ثم زائد في القراءة. Then after that, what is to be considered is the one who knows the most fiqh that is related to the prayer, or just general, the one who is most learned in the issues of fiqh. So, for example, if we were in a setting, for example, everybody was in a park and there was many people, then how would we judge? Because we're not inside the house and there's no ruler, then it is the one who's most knowledgeable in fiqh. ثُمَّ الزَّائِدُ فِي الْحَدِيثِ. Then the next criteria would be the one who is the most knowledgeable in hadith. ثُمَّ الزَّائِدُ فِي الْقِرَاءَةِ. Then the person who is most knowledgeable or more knowledgeable in qira'ah, in recitation of the Quran. ثُمَّ الزَّائِدُ فِي الْعِبَادَةِ. Then after that, so for example, let's say they're equal in fiqh, they're equal in hadith, and they're equal in recitation, then we'll go the highest in ibadah. The one who ثُمَّ زَائِدُ فِي الْعِبَادَةِ, one who is to be considered more worshipful. ثُمَّ الْمُسِنُّ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ. Then we're going to look at the one who is most knowledgeable in Islam. Not most knowledgeable in Islam, who has been in Islam the longest. So one who is born Muslim would, technically speak, would be given preference over one who is not born a Muslim, or one who's been in Islam for 10 years over the one who's been in Islam for 5 years. Now, if all of this were equal, ثُمَّ ذُو النَّسَبِ, then a person who comes from an honorable lineage, right, which is pretty hard to dictate in our times now. ثُمَّ جَمِيلُ الْخَلْقِ, then the person who has the most beautiful terms of body, size and body. For example, the muscular man over the skinny man, for example, or the person who's more physically fit than the other, or one may be slim and trim and the other may be a little overweight. Then that would take the one who is more fit should take precedence. ثم حسن الخلق ثم حسن اللباس ثم حسن الخلق, the person who is more mannerful, a person who is known to have good adab is given preference. ثم حسن اللباس, and then we would narrow it down to the one who is more dressed. For example, one who is dressed in Islamic attire, or dressed in a jubba and a turban and so on and so forth, and they would be given preference over one who's just wearing regular clothes. Then he's going to mention an important issue. He says, وَمَنْ كَانَ لَهُ حَقٌّ فِي التَّقْدِيمِ فِي الْإِمَامَةِ وَنَقَصَ عَنْ دَرَجَتِهَا كرب الدار إن كان عبد أو امرأة أو غير عالم مثلا فإنه يستحب له أن يستنيب من هو أعلم منه والله أعلم. Here he's going to mention the issue, as I mentioned before. In terms, we mentioned that the one who owns a house, for example, has the right to lead the prayer. It's recommended that he leads the prayer. Or, for example, the one who is renting the house. He says, وَمَنْ كَانَ لَهُ حَقٌّ فِي التَّقْدِيمِ فِي الْإِمَامَةِ, the one who has the right to lead the prayer. وَنَقَصَ عَنْ دَرَجَتِهَا, but he has a deficiency that would necessitate that had he been outside of the house, he wouldn't lead the prayer. For example, at his house, there's a faqih, one who's knowledgeable in fiqh, but that person himself is not a faqih. In his house, it's recommended that he leads the prayer because he's the one who owns the house. But if he were outside the house, then that would mean that the faqih would lead over him because he knows more fiqh than he does. So he's saying in this case that when a person is in his house, or he has the right to being the imam, and there is someone there who is more qualified than he is, then it's recommended for him to pass the imamate over to that person. So he says, وَمَنْ كَانَ لَهُ حَقٌّ فِي التَّقْدِيمِ, whoever has a right to be given preference fil imamati, in terms of being an imam, وَنَقَصَ عَنْ دَرَجَتِهَا, but he is more deficient, he has a deficiency in his level in opposed to others, obviously. كَرَبِّ الدَّارِ, and he gives an example like a person who is the owner of a house, but there's somebody else there that has more right to him to lead the prayer. إن كان عبد أو امرأة أو غير عالم مثلا, if that person was a slave or a lady or are not an alim in fiqh, مثلا, for example, then he's going to say the answer is فإنه يستحب له أن يستنيب من هو أعلم منه. Then it is recommended, it is mustahab for him to substitute for someone, to substitute for him someone who is a'lamu minhu. Although the author used the word a'lamu minhu, he should use the word afdalu minhu, meaning one who is more better fit for the position of the imamate. And the author says, rahimahullah, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and that comes down to the end of the section concerning issues that are related to the imam. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.